Hello, I'm Jordan, and welcome to my video on F#. F# was developed by the F# Software Foundation, Microsoft, and other open contributors. It has a free compiler available on all platforms using Mono. Mono Develop is an IDE that's also available on all platforms. It was originally designed as a .NET language and is fully supported by Visual Studio. A lot of the syntax in F# is similar to Haskell. For example, you declare variables the same way, except for you need to use the let keyword in your code files. Lists are also a little bit different. You separate your list with the semicolon. The cons operator is double, and the concatenation operator is the @ symbol. So those are some different things. F# also supports higher order functions, so you can have a function as a parameter. It has functions like map and filter over lists. F# has support for pattern matching. You use it with a match with statement. It's kind of cool because you can do it anywhere within the program. So one thing that's different is instead of equals, you use an arrow. You can also use when after the A there to specify conditionals before the arrows. Conditional would go right there. An underscore matches with anything. There's also piping and lambda functions, so you can pipe the output of one function into the next, or you can create a lambda function with the fun keyword and an arrow there. It also has pre-printing like this, similar to printing in C# or whatever, but %A will print anything, including user-defined types and union types and things like that. These are user-defined types. The first one is a record type, which just stores data. The word on the left is the label, and the word on the right is the type. You can declare record types this way. This second one here is a union type, which you can actually use record types inside of, like this. To declare a union type with multiple variables, you use the star, so you could do star float here. You can also have types that take types as parameters, like this. The last one here is an option type, which is the sum or none thing, which is important in functional languages. F# also has support for imperative constructs. You can do if, elif, else statements. You can do for loops over lists. You can do while loops. You can also create classes with members, which is kind of cool. And it has built-in getters and setters. You can also use the arrow to set any mutable value. You can override functions as well. Every function has a toString, which is what pre-prints it. You can override that. F# is cool because it has a lot of the cool things about Haskell, like pattern matching and type inference and pre-printing and types and union types. But you can also do imperative programming, so you can just get some stuff done that you need to do, and it makes some things a little bit easier, but also having the things side by side can lead to bugs or can lead to making things hard that eat up hours of your time. So it's kind of a give and take, and F# is definitely a learning curve for sure. You can also work side by side with C#, which is cool. So this is my code. It's an app that allows a patient to check their prescriptions and see how many refills they have, or schedule an appointment with their doctor. Originally I was trying to make it way too complicated. I was actually trying to, use GUIs at first, and then I scratched that, and I was just trying to keep it persistent and store the appointments in the files, and then I scratched that, and even though all my functions were working properly, like I could parse the files and put things in lists and stuff, getting them to actually work together, and when I was trying to build them all into a loop or whatever. It was just causing problems, and so I ended up scratching about 15-20 hours of work. I just threw it all away and started over and did something way simpler, but in doing so I actually learned a lot, so with the complicated stuff. But anyway, here's my program. So it just has some data. It stores a doctor and a patient, and a drug, and then a prescription is either over the counter of type drug or RX only of drug, and then some other details. These are just constants to be used by the program here, so you could change these, and these lists here are updatable, and they're also used by the main function. But in order to update the prescription list, you'd have to do it yourself. You'd have to code it. Anyway, so here's a function that just gets the input and returns it. In this module here, basically what that does is it separates it out, because basically if you declare P1, you can't use it inside of P2 even though they're right next to each other unless you pass P1 into P2, which is kind of annoying. So down here I open the My Health app and import all that stuff. And then, so basically all this does is it just asks the user for the input, and if they choose 1, it just prints out their prescription list, and if they choose 2, it asks them for a time, and then it adds the appointment to the list, and then it prints the new appointment list, and then when you press 3, it exits. So yeah, it's pretty simple, but it uses a lot of functional features, and I did learn a lot with the complicated stuff, and with this as well, and with bug fixing. So here's the program. You can either check your prescriptions. It's always the same based on what's in that prescription list variable in the first module. Or you can schedule an appointment, so we might make it 10 p.m. and then it prints your current appointments after you schedule one. So you could schedule another appointment, it might be 12 p.m. So now you have 2 appointments, and then when you hit 3 you can exit, and it just says goodbye. And it doesn't exit right away just for convenience because of this code here. So you can just hit exit to close it. And that's the program. So there's also this AND keyword that you have to use. So since a patient uses a prescription list, you have to AND them together, and since prescription isn't up here, I have to AND all 4 of these together. It goes back to the P1, P2 thing, and not being able to use P1 and P2 here, so I had to redeclare them here, so this was just an example of that. But, you know, tutorials don't seem to make, well, things like the AND thing immediately obvious. Like, this someone said was chapter 8 in their expert F# programming book, like this AND keyword for types, and it took me forever to find it because I was Googling how to declare multiple types, and apparently they're called recursive types. So once I found that, it was easy, but it was one of the first things I tried to do, and none of the tutorials seemed to really cover it. Here's a example of GUIs in F# using G2K and Xperience Studio. I had a lot of trouble getting this to work, even though there's tutorials about it online. I was having trouble getting F# to even recognize my G2K, even though Xperience Studio has support for it built in. It also turns out Xperience Studio doesn't support the newest version of F#, which I just couldn't figure out why it wouldn't compile things, and that took a while. Overall, I spent a lot of time looking into complicated things and things, you know, that didn't end up in my project, but in doing so, I learned a lot. But yeah, I spent way too many hours on this project, and I really did learn a lot about functional languages, and I feel like I have a way better understanding of bugs and type errors and how things should work in a functional language, and doing all this complicated stuff really taught me a lot about that, so it was good. And even when I was making this video, I guess the microphone on my laptop doesn't work anymore, so I had to wait till the next day and go to the store and get a microphone and then record it. That took way longer than I thought it was going to, so this was delayed, but overall I had fun. Alright, bye.